Howdy again, it's Mr. Pete, your YouTube shop teacher. Welcome back to Studio G. Well, this video is all about the restoration of this beautiful little VERSA-VISE. In fact, the restoration is done. I cannot show you what it looked like originally, and let me tell you what happened. I've been working on this restoration for 3 days, and I lost the video for the first 2 days. So all I can show you, rather than just scrap the video, is the final steps in the restoration after it's been painted, and I start to reassemble it, and then I show you how it works and all of that. Now, the original video probably would have been too long because it's still 15 minutes, but the lost portion shows me disassembling the vise, degreasing it, derusting it, with a new process here that I cannot show you, and then I painted it, and then this video will begin right after the painting. Now what I do have to show you is just a short video about a minute or so when I purchased the vise, so you can see what it looked like when I bought it at an auction a month ago. That's the same auction where I bought the baby bullet vise. So rather than just throw the video away, I'm going to show you that, and hopefully you'll get something out of it. I'm ashamed, in 15 years of making videos and over 1,600 videos, I've never just plain lost the footage. But it happened this time, probably due to my incompetence and my age. But anyway, it's really a neat vise. It's a woodworking vise. It's very old, and I'll talk a little bit about the patents and all that stuff at the end. Thanks for watching, and please excuse me. Did you ever see a vise like this? I've had these in the past, and I believe the correct name is VERSA-VISE because it can be used in the upright position or flat, and since you probably don't know what I'm talking about right now, I will have a standalone video on this at some point. It's filthy dirty, so it needs a good cleanup and maybe even a paint job. Do you know what a VERSA-VISE is? I think AMF was the company that made them, but it's, like I say, it's so filthy. You can't read the decal here, but this is, I didn't pay a whole lot for this, but this is a pretty awesome little vise. There were many vices there, and I was outbid on most of them. Here's a promotional brochure on the VERSA-VISE from 1953. Note that the price is $11, and it was made by the will-burt company in Ohio. Notice that in this picture the jaws are much higher and more narrow than the one I now own. It's the next day, and the paint is dry and the masking removed, and it looks pretty darn good. Now for putting it back together, and I hope I remember how. Well, first I'll install the lock. There's a little knurl on here, and I put a little bit of oil. I won't show everything, the video is already incredibly long. And now the movable jaw. Along with the nut. And next the screw. I think I mentioned already that I put a spacer in there to take up some of the slack. And now I have to tap this bushing into place. Now that's going to be very fiddly because it's really a press fit, so I'll do that off camera. Well, I wasn't going to show this, but since I got it started, maybe I'll see if I can. And there it is, you know, and that's a bit of a secret. I don't think anyone else has shown this on YouTube. But there it is, and with the spacer in here, I have removed some of the backlash, some of the slop. Looking good if I didn't scratch the paint up too much. The idea now is I want to mill off the little anvil portion and the tops of the jaws. So in the setup here on the Bridgeport mill, and I'm down in Studio B right now, first of all I am going to set the bottom of the vise on the bottom of this vise. It's a vise in a vise, you know. Alright, I got to turn off the Spite air conditioner. Be right back. Alright, now that I have turned that off, you know, a fellow wonders if the bottom of the vise here is truly parallel to this. And here's how we'll find out. First of all, I'm going to go ahead and put the vise in the vise. And I have to hang a little bit out here, and you'll see why in a second. I'd like to center it, but I'm a little bit off to the side. And I'm going to snug it up real nice. Now, I'd like to see, so I'm going to take a surface gauge. Is that all in the frame? Because I'm not using a monitor right now. So setting the scriber right down to the anvil and moving it on all four corners, it's good. So I'm ready to mill that, but I'm still not ready to start the job. Now, I talked about this earlier, and this is what the patent on this vise is all about, is the fact that we got this slop here. Now, I want to mill these together, but watch what happens now. I've got them flush up at the top. Watch what happens as I tighten the vise jaws. See, it's pulling down. And again, the reason for that is this locking mechanism. So what I'm going to do here is take a little jack and put it underneath the end of the screw here and raise it up and then snug it and see what that looks like. So, something like that. See how I'm raising it up? And then I'd like to lock it the best I can, but the jack is now in the way. I guess that's going to have to do. I put a brand new 3/4 carbide end mill in the spindle. Now this is quite a distance here, what, about 4 inches? And there will be some chatter and vibration. I hope I can overcome that, but I got to quit talking about it and just do it. Too good to be true. I'm very worried about the movable jaw chattering on me, and I was thinking about putting a clamp here between, well, I don't know if you can see what I'm pointing at, but I didn't have a clamp that would work properly, so let's try this, but I'm leery. Actually, that worked quite well. I'll take one more light pass off camera, and it removed almost all of the saw marks, so I don't really need to take any more off, but I'll take off 3 more thousandths off camera, and then I'm done. This worked pretty darn good. Now, I do not have the ability to mill the sides, and you saw how mangled they are, but I guess it doesn't matter. I certainly wouldn't want to use a long end mill and like we got here and try to mill it this way. That just wouldn't work at all, so that's enough. The job is done. I'm back out in Studio G, and I'll have to admit, these machine surfaces here really dress it up because it removed virtually all of the nicks and marks. So what I have to do next, and I'm wrapping the video up right now, I'm going to screw the base down, at least temporarily, with 2 lag screws onto the bench. And what I noticed is that a fella needs to get this mounted way out near the edge, like that. Don't put it back like that, or, well, you'll see why in a minute, but pretty close to the edge like this, and I'll just put 2 screws in. It requires flat heads, but these will do. This is a maple top. Okay, now we're ready at long last and if you don't want to watch it here, you can watch it over here. I watch it here. I don't even look at what I'm doing. But anyway, when you mount the vise onto the tube here, be sure and pull up on the lock here. And you saw me struggle with that earlier in the video. I know I looked pretty incompetent, and that's because I was, and for that matter I am. So you have your choice here of locking it with this, but that's what caused all the galling on the tubing. And I do not know if this is factory or if Bubba did that, but it would work. But we can swing this around into any position we want. And let me put a piece of wood in here. Remember, this is a woodworking vise. So watch now as I tighten this up. This is free to swing. As I tighten it up, the jaw moves down, pushes on this, and locks it. To make the final adjustment, which I did off camera because I did have this out, just snug this up with a 6-inch crescent wrench. If it doesn't say crescent on the wrench, it is not a crescent wrench. So as soon as you loosen this, of course, you are free to move it around. A few minutes ago I told you to locate the base right out near the edge, because if you do not, a longer piece like this will strike the bench, but this way it will clear. And I noticed that a lot of people install their metalworking vices too far back on the bench, and then they can't hold long work. Common sense should prevail, but there is no such thing as common sense. Now, if you so desire, you can lift the vise off and put it in this position. And hold your work, whatever it may be. That's for right-handers. If you're a left-hander, do this. By the way, this is gray cast iron. This is not a forging. The paint will wear off of this. I should have masked it, but anyway, it can be moved in either direction. Oh, and it will swing around. I thought maybe the jaws would hit here, but they don't, so you could even hold your work back here. Let me show you what this attachment does. Pretty neat, isn't it? I wanted to show you some clever engineering here. This hole is a cord hole. It never was machined, and it's oversized, but it's almost like a V in here. Can you see that? It's got a flat here. So when you put it on, you know, it's just wobbly as can be, but as we tighten this, it will push the attachment this way and tighten it. So they saved a lot of expense in machining by just coring the hole large enough to where there was no handwork needed, other maybe some filing in the foundry, I don't know. But let's take a look again now how this is to be used. All right, on it goes, and I'm just going to snug it for the moment. And I'll put the vise onto the tubing. Now, see how this just flops around? And it's going to continue to flop around until you tighten some work in it. Then it would lock. Now I realize, now I'm getting it finally. I'm a slow learner, but this is where we would want to tighten this back screw to hold it in the upright position. Now, take that out. You can see by loosening this up, we can swivel this around into any position imaginable, and Lots of different possibilities here, and that's why they call it the VERSA-VISE. What do you think? This advertisement is from 1954 and they already raised the price by $2. Notice that it can be used in the flat position and the arrows are indicating which directions the vise will rotate. In this paragraph they talk a little bit about the automatic locking device, and I'll talk about that later in the video, but notice here that it says the jaws are 2.5 inches wide. Well, they are now 3.5 inches wide, so they did make some modifications over the years. The patent revolves around the automatic locking device. Several different companies manufacture the vise under license over the years, including Columbia Vise Company. But this is a page from the 2018 Grizzly catalog, and they offer a similar vise, and they call it the Shop Fox Parrot vise. You can read through that if you want. There'll be stills at the end. It took me quite a long time to track down the patent. I thought that this vise was originally from the early 50s or the late 40s, but in fact, look at the low patent number there, and it was patented in 1901 by the inventor John Long. I thought this was kind of a clever picture where they gave the vise a little bit of life. Hi, I'm the versatile VERSA-VISE. This page describes how to mount your VERSA-VISE. Notice that they also had an option here of a set of, they look like pipe jaws is what they look like, because the actual jaws are smooth jaws, remembering that this is a woodworking vise, and lower on the page they are showing you how to screw down the base on your workbench. Over the years they offered several accessories for the vise. The top one here is the only one that I have, but looking down the page you can see that there were various other bases and mounting systems for the VERSA-VISE. I realize this doesn't show up very well, but here are some of the many ways that you can use your new VERSA-VISE. Well, if you like the vise or you like the video, give me a thumbs up, please, and even subscribe if you're in the mood, but it's not required. So, at the end now, after I'm sign off here, be sure and stick around. I got lots of still pictures, including the patents and some of the advertising, and some still shots along the line. But this is a pretty darn neat vise, especially for woodworkers and people that work on instruments and guns and various items where you need to reposition the work constantly. Remember, they're smooth jaws. Now, even though there's a lot of wear in the screw and the nut here, it seems to me that it operates pretty darn nice. I would like to have a little decal here that says VERSA-VISE, because that was pretty well destroyed, so I brushed it off and just painted over it. So, thanks for watching, and so long for now. Be sure and watch my 1,500 other videos. I dare you